Wow, my God. I cannot believe these days here. Well, my name is Lady Sussex. Welcome to Meghan and Harry show. Welcome to Meghan, Real Life Cinderella. I call the show Meghan a Real Life Cinderella because the story, her story, it just fit in so well with the Cinderella story. I mean, wouldn't you say? Well, let me tell you guys a little bit about myself and why I decided to do this show. I've been a supporter of Harry and Meghan since 2016. Obviously, like every one of you guys, sort of when I hear Harry was about to marry a black girl, a biracial girl, I was so excited. I was happy. I was just like, oh my God, finally, the biracials in England and everywhere else finally is going to have some type of representation, just like we have Obama's here, sort of representation matter. And so I was quite excited about it. But I mean, right to the start, my goodness, wow, the claws, the jealousies, and everything started coming out. They started bashing the girl, finding her sister, her brother, and anyone that's willing to say anything horrible about this girl. They were sort of, and none of it was true, because Meghan Markle, I mean, if you follow her since Suits, and this girl, it's sort of like pretty much like her life is well documentary and online, so you can tell it was jealousy, it was racism, it was all sort type of things that was going on. And so I was like, oh my God, no one is defending this girl. And come Sussex Squad, those women were freaking amazing, and they leave such an impact on me, because it was for the first time I got to see black women at work defending each other. Sort of, it wasn't, to me, as far as I'm concerned, since the women movement, civil right movement. And to see people actually get together that who doesn't know one another all over the world and just started sort of support this woman, and because we see ourselves in Meghan Markle, we understand what she was going through, and she was silent and she couldn't talk for herself, and she needed somebody to talk for her, and the family she was about to get in was not defending her. After she married, they wasn't defending her. And so I think the Sussex Squad, sort of, Michelle and Tina started sort of talking about it and fighting back and come up with receipts. And I mean, that left with such an impact. And very often I'm like, my God, I wish I could do more. I wish I could say, but I don't know nothing about internet. I don't even know how it worked. I mean, I could anything that I know to do is sort of go into YouTube at best. And so, and obviously I live a very busy life. I had a lot going on in my life. And so I'm like, oh my God, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So I decided to say, well, if I listen, to what's going on, if I push back any way I can, or whether support, Meghan and Harry and then Denver. Maybe sort of, I'll help that way. And as I continue the women and listen to the women, and I think Tina is often say, we need to have more of you guys out there. We need to have each one of us need to be talk about and talk. And I can say, yeah, I'm going to do it. First, I need to know how the whole internet works to begin with. I need to know how to do a podcast. And, I'm not the most sort of, technological, person. So it took me a long time, but I have this thing in me that says, you gotta say something. Sort of don't be afraid of how you sound. Don't be afraid of sort of, the fact that, and maybe, some people may not even understand what it is that you are saying, but there's a lot of people that just going to understand what you're saying because they know the story, they know what's going on. Just having different point of view, more of us out there fighting, it actually will help, and it does. I mean, if you looked at the stuff the squad's able to do and how they were able to push back, Oh my God. And I think Harry himself saying that, you know what, the reason why they were able to make this move is because of us, is because what we were able to do. But as we continue, and I realize that, you know, this is bigger than Meghan, this is bigger than Harry. It's all of us. It's a fight for us to say no. You know, I mean, this is this world, this, it's becoming a sort of, you know, a mix, multicultural, and sort of, you know, there's no reason why that we cannot be a part of the conversation. And like Megan saying, is this that, you know what, if you're not going to invite us, then we're going to make our own table. And this is exactly what we're doing. And I think they was not prepared, they wasn't ready for us, because they are accustomed of sort of call us name and say these horrible, awful things to just shut us down. We're supposed to be really appreciate and be grateful to whatever crumbs that, you know, they leave on the floor for us, and sort of we should be, no, we are very smart women, we work hard, and we do a lot of things. There was nothing that's ever given to us, and I think black women sort of even show out and show how powerful that, you know, we can be, especially in the election here in the United States. Oh my God, don't we come out? And I don't know why people always doubt us as women, because I mean, do we forget the women's movement? Do we forget the civil rights? We forgot that, you know what we have accomplished together. So I mean, I think it was great to see now this generation that, you know, I'm so fortunate to be a part of, said enough is enough. We're not going to stand for the racism. We're not going to sort of be pushed around. We're not going to sort of, you know, walk away with our tail, you know, underneath of us. No, we're gonna show up, we're gonna stand up, and we're going to fight. And you're gonna have to hear us, you're gonna have to listen to us. So so this show, I hope I make the squads proud. Okay guys, I hope you guys enjoy the show, and you subscribe and you share it. This is a big conversation. This is you know, conversation we all need to have, because again, this is bigger than Meghan and Harry. It's all of us. It's what's going on in our lives, our family. We all relate to someone that, you know, who is mixed race, or even us, you know, sort of what, as a woman, what we go through everyday life, in dealing with all the same issues, the rejections and everything. I think is important now than ever to actually really speak on this issue and stand up. So which is why I invite the, you know, my guests, the two guests that I have here, George and Charles. Obviously George is really white, and he's gonna hit that. And Charles, who is biracial, in fact his mother is Brit. And so I wanted to have and I wanted to hear what they have to say. What do they think? Because again, they're all a part of the conversation, which is something that, you know what, Meghan and Harry stressed out a long time ago, and says, you know, if we're going to solve these issues, all of us must take part of the bigger, larger conversation, and have and be heard. And so I wanted to do that. I wanted to see two people that, you know, who sort of or not royalists, and who sort of really don't really care that much about the royal family, but yet, you know, they cannot tune out the noise that's happening and what's been going on. And so I wanted to see what they have to talk about, and what do they think about the issues, and where do we go from here. So let's get the show on the road. So George,
am I really that white? Really?
Yes, you are.
Hi, everyone.
So, what do you guys think about everything that's been going on?
Well, I think generally I don't know hardly anything about the royal family or that entire world. The first time I even got introduced to it at all was The Crown, and I know that's, to an extent, it's fiction, but it is based on reality, I guess. But that was really the only thing that I've known about the royal family. I kind of heard about Meghan Markle from co-workers who were excited about the wedding and love to follow her, but it was never something that really crossed my mind. But seeing these headlines was definitely thrust it more into the forefront in terms of who they are and what they're doing, and especially over the last few years. And they definitely seem like incredibly impressive people outside of the fact that they're royal.
Yeah. But to hear, what the palace is doing to them, and I know you don't know a lot, but to hear the kind of racism, the kind of sort of stuff that's coming out, and so what do you think that sort of caused that?
Well, I don't know. I think coming off of 4 years of Trump in the U.S., not particularly surprised at this point by the continuance of racism across the world, and especially in the U.S. And so I don't think any of the headlines are necessarily surprising to me, but they are sad, right? Because this is a couple that seem to be honestly just genuinely good people, and for them to be kind of receiving the treatment they're getting, and with no other explanation, no other way of explaining it outside of kind of the racial bias, especially when you look at the comparison to how Kate was treated. It's just sad.
Yeah. Charles, in your point of view, being a biracial man, and I believe your parents are Brits, right? So what do you think with everything that's going on, how the palace treated her, how they treat sort of a biracial woman, and sort of, what do you think about that?
Well, certainly my mom is British, and just in terms of how I think that the palace has been treating Meghan, I mean, it's certainly obvious to those who are paying any kind of attention. I myself, can certainly see myself in terms of a biracial person, not necessarily being understood by by anyone. Just because you kind of fit in the middle, you don't necessarily fit in either one side or the other. And I think that from Meghan's point of view, I certainly see that she's been thrust into the limelight in a world that even though she was an actress, that this is just a whole second level that she hasn't really had to experience, and just face the kind of vitriol that she has, and the complete lack of support that she's received from her quote-unquote family, new family, is really unfortunate. And, as Georgian mentioned, that it's, they seem like good people. I don't know that much about them myself, but at the end of the day, I mean, you could see what they, what kind of causes they support and what they stand for, and what they're trying to get across. I think that in terms of the kind of work that she was trying to do while she was in the family, she looked like she put like all of her heart and soul into it, and she put forward a lot of effort, and certainly didn't seem that she deserved the treatment that she got.
So any one of you guys could answer this question. What do you think about, the story about sort of her bullying staff? It's a story that had come out very early on, maybe a year and a half ago, where they were just kind of like, putting things out, say that, what staff was leaving because, they couldn't work with her and things like that. But it never gone anywhere because we believe, especially the scribes and everyone else, believe it was just, they were trying to sabotage what she was trying to do, sort of because the staff that who left, their time was off, the time was up, and sort of they move on to other things, but somehow they change it and make it seems like it's because that they couldn't work with her. Now they sort of, that story resurface again, but this time they add on another layer, talking about that sort of she was bullying stuff, and we all know that if she was doing something like that, with everything they tried to bash her with, that would have been frontline story. So what are you guys thinking? You guys thinking sort of a lot of it has to do because of the interview with Oprah Winfrey? It's coming up on Sunday.
I mean, it just seems like it can't be anything else. The timing of it's just so obvious, right? For something to have happened 2 years ago, or anything outside of the last like month, for something for a group of people that are so in the limelight all the time. I mean, 2 years is an eternity, and so for it to show up in the week leading up to a big interview, it just seems like it's just so obvious that it's clearly about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a calculated smear campaign. And, for those people who actually, understand and are involved in media, I mean, this is transparent. This is, as obvious as it could possibly be. So, again, it just goes to show you kind of really how afraid they are in terms of what she may say. And then also that she may have a point. If they felt that she actually had no legs to stand on in terms of what she was saying, then I don't think they would have taken such measures in order to kind of, discredit her prior to the interview.
Well, to that point also, just thinking about the transparency of it, it's just like, even if there had been any merit to the allegations, they sort of undermine them through this sort of the calculated nature in terms of how it's been deployed, how it's actually been put out in front of people, because it is so obviously tied to the Oprah interview. It's like it's just about that. There's no actual credibility to it, even if there had been merit. Which, I mean, knowing just what we know that's out in the public kind of domain, information-wise, it doesn't seem like there would be any merit to those allegations.
But isn't that amazing? Right before we started recording this, and we were looking at sort of, a couple clip that, she just won her case against, sort of, I think the Mail Online supposed to be printing some apology and things like that, whatever, so have you. I mean, all these things that they really try to do a number on this girl. So what I don't really get, and perhaps maybe just to get you guys, thoughts on that, I don't believe myself that, Harry, who, very often talk about his grandmother, and he loves his grandma, and of course, I don't believe that Meghan will go after particularly the family, even though I feel like they're complicit on everything that have happened. That's not my where my mind is. I think that, she's going to talk about the press, the abuse, and as well the stuff. I mean, she said the firm, and her, sort of, I suppose the teaser from Oprah, she talks about the firm, and obviously everybody tried to say, well, she's talking about the family. She's talking about the family. I don't believe she's really directly talking about the family. She's talking about the courtier, the man in gray suit, as Diana previously called them. So that's what I think. And I think they all really fear what she's going to say. It just sort of, going to cause a major blow for the monarchy. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, just to go back to the apology, because I think that is interesting, and it's great that they won, and there's seems to be at least some degree of repercussions. I think what's important maybe to think about, though, is the reality of the consequences of the actions in this apparent campaign against Meghan. Is the stat that we had just seen looking at some of those headlines, is that only 32% of Brits view Meghan favorably, and it's just it's an astounding thing to think about. It's like what is the reason behind the majority that don't view her favorably, and so when you think that for all of the attacks that have gone on her. Right, the result of that, how that shifts people's perceptions and how they think about her as a result of that. That's not something that's just going to get undone by a single apology or posting something on that front page for a week.
Yeah, obviously.
So it's just kind of the think that there needs to be more, right? Going beyond just winning in the court, but also really shifting how the whole narrative is put out.
Right. I mean, if you think about 2019, I think she said like she was the most trolled online. So, and when you have every day, maybe like, 3 or 4 sort of, I mean, they really bash this girl almost on a daily basis. After a while, it's sort of, it's like, what is going on?
No, and I mean, certainly it will grind on you. I think the larger thing is that, we've seen this movie before, right? I mean, I think that everyone's well aware, and certainly Harry and William more than any, is very aware of what damage the press can cause, and certainly the kind of vitriol and kind of the impact it can have on people's lives. So, I don't think you can really fault Harry for trying to protect the people that he loves, knowing that, what the consequences could possibly be. So, and that's just, I think, what makes it even worse, right? Because everyone saw that movie. Like, this isn't anything that's kind of happened, secretive between, a family member that you never heard of. I mean, everyone remembers where they were when they saw his mother die. And for this to happen again, to the same kid is just crazy. So, they certainly, my heart goes out to them just with what's been going on. And clearly, I think that, to your point, is that, with the case ending the way that it did, with them succeeding, and obviously them going to have to, publish retractions and obviously be online and everything else and all the things they're going to have to do in terms of the Daily Mail. There's clear truth to it because they've already been convicted in the court of law.
Yep, I think you got a point here. I think, for me, I think the press miss an opportunity as well, because I don't actually think that, she actually was going to leave. I think that, even if she was going to leave, then they will have Harry and Harry will stay. It was just kind of like they didn't get it. I don't think they don't get it. And I don't think they get the pushback. And the reason why they are getting so pushback is because for many Black women, we see ourselves in Meghan. We see ourselves. This is the kind of things that, each one of us deal with in a daily basis. For every one of us here, we are pretty much really sort of, if not mixed, we have mixed family in our own family. So sort of, we kind of like understand what is going on. So when we see these things happening to Meghan, it's very, if you feel like it's happening to you too, you know what I mean? It's a story that, you can relate with. And so I think that's why the pushback, and I think they're very surprised of that. They was not ready for that. And I think right now where we are, in this moment in time, it's something that, we no longer want to tolerate it anymore. We don't want to be bashing. We don't want to be called name. We don't want to be calling sort of, being aggressive and all those whistle thing that they do. How you call that?
The dog whistles?
The dog whistles. So we just like, it's time. Time's up. Time's up. Time's up. I think that, it's going to be a great interviews on Sunday. I think they're going to touch about many things and things that they're about to do. And I think they're going to do great thing because I think they are two very amazing couple. Oh my God, don't we all jealous? I'm sure all of us women would love to have a man that, got our back. And I think yesterday actually here in an interview where, one of the Gina, I believe that was her name. She's a comedian, where she's saying that Harry is a better husband than Charles ever was to Diana, and I think that was really well said. I think people in England they make a mess and they don't know how to clean it. They really don't know how to clean it.
Yeah, looking as an outsider, someone who's only grown up in the States and has certainly all of the perspective that's informed by growing up in the States, how I view the monarchy, it's one with, what you would expect from an American, where it's like doesn't necessarily make sense. It's kind of quaint, but it seems like it would have made a lot of sense for them to seize the moment and be a bit more thinking ahead in terms of how to stay with how society's changing, how it's growing out of its old form and evolving into a better kind of place in terms of society for all of us. It seems like it would have been a great opportunity for them to do that, and that they, for some reason, doesn't seem like it's been a priority.
Especially in England now, sort of, I think, all you see is biracial. So, can you believe the kind of rejection these kids now feeling? They were all happy for the first time they feel represented, because representation matter.
Well, to that end, it's good on Meghan and Harry for not just sitting down. You know, it's good on them to be standing up and speaking out at the very least. It would have been better if they hadn't been rejected in the first place, but at the very least they do have the strength that they can see from Harry and Meghan working together, being that couple, like you mentioned, and continuing to stand up and speak out for themselves.
Yeah, I actually sort of like feel really, really, really sad. I mean, sort of, I'm not here to bash, you know, the Brit and stuff like that, because I don't think they're all bad, just like in any situation, not all bad. But what the problem that I'm having is that, you know what, they upset the kind of trash that come out in these magazines in day and day and day and day out. And I don't think they realize that, you know, how the world is seeing them. I mean, we're talking about this interview is going to be viewed by 62 countries. 62, 63, I think. I mean, hello, especially when they're dealing with Megxit and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know how that's going to make them look like.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, to me, the way they played this was just absolutely horrible. Because if Meghan just would have had the interview, it would have been an interview, it would have been a thing, it would have gotten out in the public domain, and then, you know, it would have been the story, and then it would have eventually kind of faded away until Meghan does her next project. But the way they've brought so much attention to it is just that now they've just kind of amplified it to everyone else. And as you mentioned before, is that, you know, it's not like I follow this thing on a day-to-day basis. But now, just with the drama that they've kind of created around it, they're actually driving the ratings and the viewership of the special higher.
That's right.
So it doesn't even make any sense in terms of how they've even. I mean, if I were in charge of their communications department, I would actually have to fire them, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it just makes absolutely no sense to me.
Especially now, everyone is at home. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody needs something to do, and, you know, listening, and sort of like they just make this thing bigger than it probably would have.
Yeah, I mean, it would have just simply been a couple promos. You would have seen some videos trying to promote the special, and it would have been this, that, and the other thing, and probably a couple of ads here and there trying to promote it. And instead of that, what you have instead is like full-page headlines on major press talking about, the dust-up that's happening now that, the royals themselves created. And it's just, it's another example of what you mentioned before about how the royals just kind of shot themselves in the foot with this entire thing. Like, it didn't have to be this bad.
It doesn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate situation, but it could have actually, if they would have welcomed her properly and supported her properly, it could have been probably one of the better things the monarch has ever done. But instead of that, they're turning, they're basically alienating themselves even further, and I think really tarnishing their brand in the firm in general.
Well, if you talk to the press, they will say, well, they did because they put on a big show, they did a big wedding, but the reality is that, sort of putting on a big show and sort of because that is what Harry wanted doesn't mean that, you guys really accept her, because, I'm sorry, if you think about it, the whole drama started even before she married Harry and stuff like that. And it wasn't until Harry put on a huge statement out, they kind of pulled back. I mean, they started paying this girl's father to actually talk trash about her and her sister and all that. So how could you tell me you're upset? And then, they never say anything. I mean, talking about sort of, safe of upper lips, and they don't sort of complaining, and they don't do that. But now, all of a sudden, they're doing a lot of complaining, a lot of explaining. So I don't even get it. I think the whole thing, it's a sham, and everybody is seeing it for what it is. Sort of they talk about things that they want to talk about, they push back on things that they want to push back, and sort of, I mean, we're talking about one of the things that really hurt me to my core, because for those of us or that who have the understanding how the monarchy, when you marry into the monarchy, how that works. Usually the women will get in and they will train them for safety reasons, and sort of, Meghan had no safety sort of, thing at all. didn't trend her, didn't, from what I understand. I mean, obviously, it's been reported, it's been saying, I guess, well, just for legal purposes, I guess I will say, allegedly. So I would say allegedly, but that did happen. Didn't really sort of give her the course that they give to the rest of them, and so it's like, I mean, what are you guys was trying to do?
Well, I think there's, like, to that point, there's nothing more kind of obvious about the difference in treatment that she got than when you do look. I mean, especially from the press's perspective, when you look at the headlines, and the, like, BuzzFeed or whoever it is has done the good work of kind of lining them up side by side of how Kate was treated versus how Meghan's been treated on like the same exact issues. How vastly different the headlines are. And I think the one that I think people like to quote, and it's because it's laughable, is this thing about the avocados. And it's like, how is the if you actually just have had a chance to see any of those headlines next to each other, I don't know how you could not come to the conclusion that there's obviously some bias against Meghan.
I think for many people that were so angry or probably mad at the Brit is that they looked at these things, I mean, those papers are the most sell papers in London, and then yet there's no pushback. There's no pushback. And that's what sort of, at least here, story come out. I mean, I'm not to say that, sort of over here, we don't have our own thing happen, but there's always somebody to push back against that. You know what I mean? There's always somebody that to call it out, and we don't really do that much of tabloid here, sort of, but they live on that. This is what makes it really tough, because nobody is pushing back. It's worse. And then onto the family, you would think that, what, okay, this girl coming in, she doesn't have a family, she doesn't even have much friend, or maybe none at all over there. So you guys are now her family, and you don't give her the protection that she needs. Stand for her.
Yeah, it's funny because they tried to talk, and it's a lot about how the crown is not real, it's not real life, it's all fiction. But then at the same time, the thing that seems to be playing out on the global stage seems to kind of validate the things that you do see in the crown. And I know that's referencing that because that's pretty much the extent of my knowledge about the royal family. But it's like, how do you kind of defend? How else would you defend it? How do you explain it if it's not that?
Well, guys, that was really great conversation. I look forward to continue this conversation. Obviously, I wanted to get this out. I wanted to get you guys, sort of point of view on that. I look forward to see you guys after the interview. I would love to do another recording, and so we can discuss more about it. So thank you for listening. And if you sort of, stop and it mean that, you like what I'm saying, if you want to continue listening to me, please subscribe, and I hope to continue this conversation. I have a lot more to say. I have a lot to talk about. I want to have different people perspective. I want to sort of dissect what is going on, because I think it's really important that we push back, because anything that happened to Meghan, it happened to us as well. And I think that this world, this life, we need to not just sort of we need to have a purpose. And for me, I feel like this call, I've been called to do this, to talk. I'm not the most articulate person, as you hear, I have an accent, and my grammar probably is just not really even in non-existence. But I found a way to actually say what it is that I need to say, and understanding that English is my second language, not the first, and but it is not what it's all about. It's about sort of having your voice out there, and hopefully you guys like what we do and what we're about to do, and we could sort of work that journey together and be supportive of one another. And of course, I know there's gonna be troll, and I'm so prepared and so ready for them. And it's okay. The troll wanna troll me, that would be fine. We can talk, we can have a conversation, because but if you're gonna come and you don't have really anything to say, and it's all gonna be the same, you're gonna call names, you're gonna do all that, well, all I could say that you need therapy and you need to take your med. So have a good night, and look forward to see you guys hopefully after the interview on Sunday. I believe I will hit you guys with another podcast, either Monday or Tuesday. Bye bye, good night. Thank you to my guests Charles and George. You guys have been amazing, and I hope you sort of enjoy the time that we have, and hopefully you guys can be a part of the journey with me.
Thanks, that was great. We had a great time. Thanks so much for inviting us.
I'm excited to watch the interview. I'm looking forward to. I mean, they've definitely built up the suspense. So see what happens and see the response, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Okay. So tata, au revoir, bonsoir, bye bye, bonne journée.